Hello, it is March 4th, 2022. This is As the World Burns. I'm your host, Randall Burns. Today's topic will be looking retrospectively at some of the past Metaculus questions that have dealt with the situation in the Ukraine and showing how they worked out and the risk that they evaluated going into this mess. Now, this will be useful, I think, for helping to show people what Metaculus is about, what some of the limitations are, but it also explains some of the historical situation that we faced going into this. Now, the first question was a question on whether Russia would expand by means of armed conflict before 2020. This was going back to the 2019 era. Metaculus was running then. There was a risk. The risk was growing, but it was fairly small, under the 10% range. Our next question was, will there be a war in the Donbas area in 2021? Now that started out fairly substantial. It decreased over time, which is in part an artifact of this forecasting method. Again, it started out around 40% and went down, but it did show enough to show there was substantial risk. Here's another question on the date. Originally, the forecasters were thinking it would happen a bit later than it turned out that it did, but that again got more exact as it got closer to the real date, which is an artifact of this forecasting method. But it was still, I think it gave some useful information. The next question is whether the Ukraine would be invaded in January of 2022. That started out with a non-trivial probability that again gradually decreased. Turned out not quite to be the case, but there clearly was some real risk then. Here's another older question on Russian annexation of Ukraine by 2022. The risk was low but non-trivial. And finally, will the UN General Assembly use Resolution 377? That meant that it would override a Russian veto, since Russia has a Security Council seat, and there is a procedure for overriding the veto. This did turn out to be true, and it was obvious from the start that it would become true. So this gives us some image of how fast that came to fruition. Now, these are all questions directly related to the Ukraine situation. I'm going to go to some other questions that are more indirectly related to this that I think may be interesting. This shows some of the limitations of the methodology. There has been speculation by some authors on whether China might invade Taiwan at the same time Russia invades the Ukraine. That doesn't appear to be the case right now. And here's a question related to armed conflict between PRC and ROC that shows that probably it's not going to happen. I kind of wish we had better what-if scenarios. Here's one on SP500 crash also. And pretty much the same thing, not really affecting it too much. Here's yet another one on the US and China. Again, I kind of wish we had what-if scenarios in Metaculus. We just don't have it yet. And another one on armed conflict with China. Again, no real trend, maybe even a little bit of a decrease. Now, the big enchilada is nuclear weapon being used in an armed conflict capability. It doesn't appear like that's going to happen right now, which I admit I find at least somewhat reassuring. Now, in a future episode, I plan on doing more stuff on the Ukraine conflict. Here's a list of questions that we have on that. So I wish we had much better what-if capability, and I hope to get that. But these are the tools that we have that are readily available right now. We have a bunch of questions. There's an actual tournament with real prize money, I think about $10,000, related to the Ukraine conflict. We need the what-if scenarios to show how it works with other events. Still, I hope this does pique your interest on this area of forecasting and how you can use it to interpret the news. It's a much less sensationalistic view of the news than we see in mainstream media, and I hope that you appreciate that. Thank you for watching my video. Please hit the like button. Suggestions for future episodes are very welcome. This is Randall Burns signing off. Thank you very much for joining me here. Look forward to seeing you again soon.